I'm Michelle with Sew It Online, and today I'm going to demonstrate this Stripology ruler by Creative Grids, and it was designed by Gudrun Urla. This is a great ruler if you want to create your own jelly rolls. A jelly roll is a set of 2.5-inch strips from the designer's line. It's maybe 1 or 2 strips of each of the fabrics that they've designed, and they put it together in a nice little package like this. But if you have yardage like this that you want to cut up into strips to make a great quilt or table runners, this ruler is really going to come in handy. You can make 2.5-inch strips very easily, 1.5-inch strips. Then you can even subcut them again into squares, diamonds, 45-degree and 60-degree diamonds. So let me get the cutting board. I'm going to describe this ruler to you, and I'll meet you right back here. So let's take a look at this Stripology ruler. First thing we're going to notice, we have a row of numbers across the bottom, and they are numbered 0 through 20, and then the side on the left, they're numbered 1 through 14. These are 1-inch increments from the dark circled with the number inside of it. Those are increments of 1 inch. Then in between we have 1/2 inches. Now we also have squares across the bottom, and we have a star symbol across the bottom. This is to make things a little bit easier when you're cutting 1.5-inch strips or 2.5-inch strips. Now if you also look at the ruler itself, it has a little teardrop at the bottom all the way across, and there's also a teardrop up at the top. This is to let your rotary cutter go in to the teardrop, slide it all the way up, and then this is where your rotary cutter will come out of the ruler. So we also have these lines across the bottom, and they're either going to be in black or white. These lines are what you can use to line up your fabric to get a nice straight edge along the bottom, whether it be a fold or a raw edge of your fabric. There's also a large white, which you can't really see it very well in here, but there is a large white square, and that's if you want to cut out 10-inch squares to make your own layer cakes. So let me move this out of the way and let me get my cutting mat so we can start cutting some strips. Move this out of the way over here. And what I've done is, let me put that right there. We're going to move this cutting mat, and I'm going to have the reverse side of the cutting mat plain so you can see everything a little bit easier. And what I've done is I've taken just a fat quarter, I folded it in half, gave it a little bit of a press, and you can certainly do yardage. And this is only 2 layers of fabric. I have gone up to 4 layers of fabric underneath this ruler, and because of these grips under here, it holds it firmly. I don't have any issues with it. So if I'm going to move this ruler here, you can see that white square a little bit easier now. So let's take our fabric. We're just going to place it under this, and I'm going to cut some 2.5-inch strips. So what I'm going to do is, see this black line right here? I'm going to bring that down, and I'm going to line it up with the bottom edge of my fabric. I also want to move my ruler over to the right so that, see this little dash line right here? I want to make sure that my fabric just extends just a little bit past that. That way I know when I make my first cut into this 0 slot right here that I'm going to get a nice even cut, and I also have it lined up all the way across the bottom. So I'm going to make 2.5-inch cuts to start off with. So instead of having to cut 2.5 and then add 2.5 to 2.5 to make 5, I'm just going to follow these square symbols all the way across the ruler. So let me get my cutting mat situated here. We're lined up. My rotary cutter. I'm going to put my rotary cutter into this teardrop right here and make a cut all the way to the top. And I'm going to cut one more time, and then just make sure that it got cut. Let me see. Here we go. That's good. So now I'm going to go to 2.5, or this square right here. Hold it firmly in place. The next square is right here. The next square is right here. The next square is right here. Make sure your line, if it's off a little bit, just make sure you move it correctly, but give a good firm press on your mat so that it is cutting correctly. So when we remove the mat, we'll take a look. We're going to take off our end pieces, and then you'll notice we have 2.5 inch strips cut all the way across. Nice and easy, right? So let me take just a couple of these. Actually, I'm going to move all of them out of the way, because what we're going to do now is cut the 1.5 inch strips. So let me get another fat quarter. And again, you can use yardage on this. Lay it nice and flat. I'm going to bring that black line down to my fold. Move my ruler over to the right so that the dash line is showing up on my fabric. Now I can go ahead and work with the stars to do 1.5 inch cuts. So there's a star, there's a star, now I'm not going to cut this whole ruler with 1.5 inch strips, but I wanted to show you, see this piece came, and look at these nice 1.5 inch strips. Now remember that 10 inch ruler area, do you see that? My fabric was a little bit bigger. I could actually fit, do fat quarters and make my own 10 inch squares out of the same ruler. The directions that come with this ruler are really good at showing you the diagrams work really well so you can understand them, but they also will show you how to make 1/4 inch, so 1.25 inch strips or 2.25 inch strips. You can also do that with this ruler. But there's one other fun thing I want to show you. Let me move these out of the way, and I'm going to remove these 1.5 inch strips. I'm going to bring back over my 2 inch strips, or 2.5 inch strips, and I'm going to just put about 3 high. And when I put the ruler back on top of it, I can then even use my white line or a black line to line up my edge. But then I want to make sure that I have a clean edge across these so that each one of these strips is squared. So I am going to, let me move my ruler over here, because what I want to do is make squares. So I still want these to be 2.5 inch squares. I know my square is, my symbol of a square is at the 2.5 inch mark. So see, this is my first, this is a 2.5 inch mark, so I'm going to line it up right there. And then I'm going to follow this same square all over again, all the way across. So then when I move my ruler out of the way and I have these little pieces on the ends to throw away, now I have all these 2.5 inch squares that I've just cut. Great, easy. So let me move these. I'll show you another thing you can cut with these. Take a couple more of my, actually let's just do one on this one so you can kind of see it a little bit better. I'm going to put my fabric down a little bit on an angle. And if you notice, this ruler has a 45 and a 60 degree ruler. I'm going to take, for this one, I'm going to take my 60 degree ruler and I am going to line up an edge of my fabric to the 60 degree line. Okay? I'm going to rotate my mat just a little bit so I have a little bit easier access to it. And now I'm going to do 2.5 inch, those same square symbols. I'm going to put my ruler in here, and here, here, and here. So then when I move the ruler out of the way, I have these nice diamond shapes. You can do this with the 45 or a 60 degree on these diamonds. So keep out the ruler. I always keep this at my cutting mat whenever I am starting a quilt, getting ready for a class. This is a great go-to ruler, again by Creative Grids, designed by Gudrun Erla. I hope I said her name right. So check out this ruler. You're gonna love it, and it's gonna stay on your cutting table all the time. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.